In this video series, I'm exposing how being a high school simp eventually turned me to be a toxic husband and how I fell into the same destructive habits as one of the most well-known people in the Bible. What's going on? My name is Duran, and I'm here to share how the Bible connects to our everyday lives. I share my own journey with God, both the wins and the failures, to hopefully inspire and challenge you to live a kingdom life. I sometimes can be hard-headed. See, there was a time in my life when somebody stuck their hand in the electrical outlet and got electrocuted. Well, dang it, just to make sure that they didn't have a case of bad luck for whatever reason. I would put my finger in the dang outlet, you know? And as a kid, I was like that until I was introduced to this new and amazing innovative device, and that thing was called a whooping. Notice I didn't say spanking or punishment, no. I'm talking about whooping. Old school, walking home slow, scared from your bus stop to your house, wearing extra underwear to soften the blows, going to sleep early, hoping your mommy and daddy forgot about fulfilling their violent promise of you getting a whooping. Now, the funny thing is, every time I got whooped, I knew why I was getting that whooping. I knew I was wrong, and I even knew that I was given 1,000 chances before the whooping was even established in my parents' mind. I knew that I had exhausted all the you know better talks and take your video game away punishments and the
you got one more time. Go ahead and see if I'm playing.
Final warning. Looking back, I'm grateful for the whoopings and the warnings because it taught me one thing about life, and that is my actions have consequences. And in other words, you do reap what you sow. Now, a lot of people hear that and they think reaping what you sow is God getting back at you because something bad that you did. That's false. See, reaping what you sow is like the law of gravity. If you jump off a 100-foot building, then gravity will pull you down and you will suffer the consequences. Reaping and sowing is the same thing. Whatever you plant in the ground of your life, the fruit of what you plant will grow back to you. And if you plant a temper tantrum to your wife, for example, then you will reap a harvest of her going to bed with long pajama pants and a hoodie with the covers wrapped around her for a month. Access denied. No cookie for you, buddy.
Need cookies! No cookies, listen, no.
And so in my case though, and in the case of the person I'm about to talk about in today's video, from my singleness in high school to the time I was married, I saw being undisciplined in my life and in so many ways. So many times I went against what I knew just to get the acceptance of a girl or a woman that I like later on in life. And what that did was that planted a seed in the ground of my heart. And about the time I got married, all those seeds of going against my values, purpose, and morals grew into a forest of trees, and these trees had fruit of bad tempers, addiction, lack of self-control, selfishness, and emotional and physical abuse. And my ex-wife and kids were forced to eat that fruit, and they suffered a lot for it. Not only was I a bad husband, I was an undisciplined husband, an undisciplined man just like the man we about to talk about today. And that man's name is Samson. And the title he and I share, unfortunately, was the title of The Undisciplined Simp. Let's get it in. Yo, so we're going to keep going on with the video. But before we do, I just want to pause real quick and tell you thank you for watching. Thank you for your time and attention. If you like what you're getting, if you like this value, if you like the fun and all that good stuff and the value, please subscribe, like, let me know what you think in the comments. All right, let's keep it going on. Let's go. All right, so in the book of Judges, the 14th chapter, first verse, that's where this whole thing starts off with this dude named Samson. Samson's parents couldn't have kids, so when the angel of the Lord came to the mom, you know, the wife, and was like, yo, you about to have a kid, his name gonna be Samson, and he's gonna be a Nazarite. Now, a Nazarite's a group of people within the Israelites who took their dedication to the Lord a step further. They took a special vow to God. And 3 things they couldn't do: eat grapes, drink wine, we count that as 1. Number 2, get their haircuts. And number 3, have contact with any dead bodies. Now, the reason why Samson was born was because at the time, Israel was in bondage to the Philistine people. The Philistine people was a naval people. Philistine people were known for warfare, and they had at the time advanced weapons, which were iron swords, where the Israelites were more into agriculture. They wasn't really a warlike people like that. They depended on God for everything to rescue them. The Philistines, they were like on some Sparta 300 type stuff for that time.
This is Sparta!
And so they basically dominated the Israelites, and God allowed that to happen because the Israelites, being hard-headed, being stubborn, they kept going against God. They kept chasing other false gods, and God was like, you know what? You want it? You think fat meat is greasy? You want to play stupid games? You don't get stupid prizes. So they've been in bondage. So, but throughout this time, because God is a compassionate God, and he kept hearing their cry, please deliver us from these Philistines. And this is where we get the book of Judges. God rose judges up. We call them judges, heroes, leaders, people to help deliver God's people from the bondage of the Philistines. And Samson was one of these judges. Times in scripture, you will see that the Spirit of the Lord came upon Samson, and he did some pretty supernatural things when it comes to his strength. So Samson grows up. Judges 14 chapter. He grows into a young man. He's walking, chilling out, doing his thing. He's walking, toes out, hair long, looking all cool, doing his thing right. He's walking, and then he sees this woman. He don't converse with this woman. He don't talk with this woman. She must have been looking hella fine, because nowhere in the Bible verse it shows that he communicated with her. He saw her, he liked her, and to my surprise, he just wanted to marry her. And she was a Philistine, which means she was an enemy. And he went back to his parents and say, yo, I want to marry her. Parents like, who the hell you want to marry? What you talking about? This woman I saw, man, she a Philistine. And they was like, yo, bro, we ain't cool with them like that. We ain't really seeing eye to eye. You an Israelite, you know that, right? And not only that, you a Nazarite, which means you got like a special case of vow to God, and you want to get with the enemy? You know what I'm saying? And that was like, is there anybody else you can marry? There's somebody in our neighborhood that with the same values as you got that you want to marry. He's like, nah, bro, I'm gonna marry her. And he told her, yo, get her for me. Now, the reason why I said get her for me, because back then, you couldn't just date on your own. You couldn't just get with a woman, take her to a play or the movies, whatever, and just get her home. Back then, what you had to do, if you want to marry a woman, your father, if you're the man, and the woman's father will meet up with each other, and they will negotiate this thing called a bride price. Father of the bride would say, hey, my daughter was raised to clean the house, cook, was raised to manage money. She's wise. She knows how to write. She knows the art. She's very cultured. We invested into her. You can't just come up in here and get our daughter like that. Your son and your family have to show commitment, some symbol of investment and commitment that you're taking this seriously, because she's valuable to our home. And if she's as valuable to you as you think she is, you have to show Annie up of what that may look like. Both fathers will negotiate a price. And when they come to an agreement, groom's father will go back home for a year. Him and his son will go back home for a year. And two things that the groom had to do. He had to build a house, and he had to get his finances in order to prepare himself in order to get the woman. Then after that, they will go back down, and then they will have a large feast, and then eventually consummate the marriage. So when he said, get her for me, he had to have his parents involved. And I ain't gonna lie, I kind of wish I have a daughter. My daughter pretty. She going to she's 16. I don't like how her body starting to measure out. It's disrespectful. I will kill. Anyway, yeah, so I prefer that. Yo, if you want to talk to my daughter, then we have to talk about, a bride price. I don't want to take her to the movies. I don't care if you want to take her to the movies. Ante up, homeboy. Anyway, so when he finally convinced his parents, yo, I want her, get her for me, they travel to the place where the woman's at. And she's a Philistine. Imagine going to enemy territory, you know what I mean, to talk about marrying the enemy. So they're on the way, and just because they travel in a group doesn't mean that they travel, side by side. So I imagine that his parents took one way, Samson being the young, toes out, long hair dude that he was, probably looking all buff and muscular. He probably traveled a separate way, but not too far from his parents. On the way down there, a powerful lion came to attack Samson. Now remember, 3 things Samson couldn't do: get a haircut, eat grapes, or drink wine, touch a dead body. So a lion came to attack him. He ripped the lion apart with his bare hands. That's what it says. He ripped the lion apart with this. Let me tell you something. I'm not that country guy. I can kill mice, maybe a rat. Beyond that, I'm a city kid. I'm calling the police. Leave me alone. I will shoot. Look, bunnies, possums, hamsters, they are all rats to me. I will shoot them. Okay, all that picking them up by the tail, look what I killed, going hunting. I'm not that guy. I'm not Joe Rogan.
It's like out in paradise.
Ain't built that. I wish I was. I'm not that guy. He ripped the lion apart with his bare hands and he killed it, which means that the dead lion was in his bare hands after he killed it. So he broke one of his vows. So Samson kills the lion, and he eventually meets back up with his parents. And I can't help but think if he would have been traveling with his parents rather than away from his parents, I wonder if the lion would have still showed up. I mean, because I know that animals that have this hunting instinct, like especially like a lion who's a hunter, and they probably saw a solo man walking, and he's solo, he's by himself, he's isolated. easy prey. But I wonder if he would have saw Samson in a group, would the lion would have still attacked him. I say that because I truly believe that Satan wants us isolated by ourselves without community, trying to do everything on our own, trying to walk this path on our own, because when we do, we're easy prey. But when we plug into community, when we plug in people who's trying to do what we do, when we're traveling together as a group of community, I wonder, you know, maybe that lion wouldn't attack Samson. He meets back up with his parents, and in the text it says that he did not tell them. He kept it a secret. He kept it from his parents because he probably didn't want to hear all that noise, because his parents would have went off on him. 99.9% of the time, anytime you do an action that requires secrecy, then that implies that that action on some level was wrong. I mean, it could be something like you're in an elevator and you fart, and you don't be honest, say that you did it, because guess what? You knew you was wrong for farting in that elevator. So you even go so far to lie, like, no, that was you, Jeff. You know what I'm saying? You know the one that farted, you know, but ripped it with his hands. Like, that's some G stuff. Let me tell you something. I could be walking down the street, let 20 porcupines rush me. Watch, I'm going to run.
I was running.
You know what I'm saying? So his parents, they visit, and I imagine they negotiated the dowry, what we talked about earlier, the bride price, all that type of stuff. And some weeks later, after Samson got his affairs in order, he's on his way back to visit the woman, to actually marry her, because he built his house, got his finances in order according to the custom. On his way back, this trifling fool, on his way back, he locates and looks for and finds the dead lion. So imagine, weeks went by, probably a month went by, 3 weeks went by, and there's a whole bunch of bees on this carcass of a lion. And you know what he did? I mean, like it wasn't nothing. Like it was just as simple and normal as me getting some Apple Jacks and just eating and chilling out, watching TV. He just casually goes to the lion. There's some bees around it. Not scared of the bees. I mean, you remember the movie My Girl, Macaulay Culkin, he died from trying to, you know, get the ring for the bees. Anyway, he goes to the lion carcass, and he sees that there's honey on the carcass. He takes his hand, okay, this dead lion that's been there, no telling what's been on, it's dead, and he eats it, and he likes it. It tastes so good. You know, again, this is the second time he goes against his Nazarite vow, and we know that he know that we know that he know that he noticed, but he still do it. And he eats the honey, and not only did he eat the honey though, this is the part that pisses me off. He eats the honey. Then he brings the honey to his parents, right? And he gives it to them. This is good, Samson. This is really good. And he didn't tell them where he got it from. See, this is the reason why I don't do potlucks at work. See, I don't care who sees this. I don't do potlucks at work. I don't know. See, I don't know how you raised yourself. I don't know how you was raised. If you got a cat, 99.9% chance I'm not gonna eat your food. I don't do cats, because cats ain't got no boundaries. Cats be all over the stove, and I take shower with my cats off the kitchen table. Not just that, I don't know how y'all cook. I don't know y'all hygiene. I look at you at work, you got dirty fingernails, and so I don't trust your cooking. And so in the same way, Samson, their son, okay, he brings them this nasty, trifling thing of honey, and they eating, and he looking at them knowing where he got this from. He don't tell them. Disrespect. Let my kids bring me. It's gonna be a problem, and that's what he did. But yet, this is the second time that he broke his vow. Let's go on with the story. So him and his family on the way back, he just got to feed them the toxic, disrespectful honey, and they on their way back to the woman's house to actually get married and have the celebration. So the custom was they would have like a 7-day feast. So they kick it. Now, mind you, this ain't a normal thing back then, so it's weird. So in this wedding reception, you got the Bloods and the Crips beefing with each other, but I can imagine how awkward it is. You know, you got sandals, like, you know, blue sandals, red sandals, blue robes, red robes, like, yeah, bruh, it's slaving us. Other people like, yeah, we a slave of y'all, but we supposed to be having a good time. Just bad decisions on Samson's part just to want this woman. So Samson feeling himself. He done killed the lion. He done got away with eating the honey, and, you know, probably feeling himself. Again, he got the woman he wanted, the forbidden, fine woman, whatever. She must have been fine if he wanted to marry her just off looking at her. And they there and they doing their thing. And Samson feeling himself like, yo, now mind you, this ain't his people. He said, yo, I got a riddle for y'all. You know, and I bet y'all ain't gonna figure it out.
Riddle me this, riddle me that.
Now, the riddle's right here, down here, if you know what the riddle is, but the riddle was about the lion that he killed. You know, so he's braggadocious, feeling confident. He said, now, if y'all solve this riddle within the 7 days of feasting, then I will give y'all 30 celebration outfits and fancy outfits, right? Robes or whatever. And if you don't figure it out, then you got to give me 30 celebration robes and 35 pieces of clothing, right? And so that was like, cool. And he's smiling. He's like, they ain't gonna figure this out. They ain't gonna figure this out, you know? And so because they couldn't figure it out, they end up going to his fiance, the woman that he's about to marry, and they say, yo, you better tell us what it is. You know where you from. You know who your real people are. You know, we told y'all to marry this dude, but you know what this is about, okay? We enslave them, they don't enslave us, okay? And he ain't gonna enslave us with this riddle. So girl, if you don't get this right, you're gonna have to deal with us. And so she was like scared out of her mind, like, oh my God. Now, this is the consequence of Samson not doing his research and just going off of looks on a woman. She goes to him and she says,
Oh, Samson, what's the answer to riddle?
it literally says in the Bible verse, for the rest of the feast, for the next 7 days, she bugged him and tormented him with crying and nagging. This is the beginning of their marriage, y'all. She couldn't get what she wanted. This is what happens when you just get with a woman because of looks. This is what happens when you don't date a woman right, court a woman right, get to know who she is. You just see her, you want her, you imagine because she's pretty, she must be moral, she must have values. No. So she bugs him and torments him, and he eventually gives up, Simp, the answer. She tells her the answer, right? And she tells them, they come back with him on the 7th day, told him, hey, we know the answer to your riddle. And he's like, what? No, you don't. So Samson pissed off. He's mad as hell. I mean, he's mad because ain't no way that she got that riddle right. He goes and mass murders 30 people, get their clothes so he can fulfill his end of the riddle, and he gives it to him. He's so mad. Rather than going back to his wife, he goes back home to live back with his mom and dad. So you married her. You the one that came up with this idea for a riddle in the midst of your enemies. They threaten a woman you don't know because you don't know if she got morals or not. She goes against you the first day of being married to you and tells the secret after she nags you to death. You go fulfill the end of your deal like a man should, you know, be a man of your word, and you're mad at her. And then so you decide rather than consummate or rather than go on with the marriage, you move back with your mom and dad? Yeah, very mature, Samson. Now, I wouldn't say it to his face because he ripped the line apart, but I can say it now because he long dead 1,000 years ago. But good for you, Samson. Good for you, you immature prick. So Samson, he's back with his parents. He calms down. He said, you know what, man, I've been tripping. You know, I did marry her. I need to calm down. I mean, it was my fault that, you know, I told the riddle. I mean, it wasn't her fault. I mean, she did betray me, but let me go back and make up with my wife. So he goes back and he's about to go in the daughter's room. The father was like, hey, bro, you can't go in there, man. And he was like, yo, why not? He was like, because when you left, you were so mad and you ain't been back for some weeks. I thought you hated her, so I married off to your best man. Samson said, what would you say? The father, now remember, the riddle is out. So they probably know he killed the lion with his bare hands. The father is probably registering to the father at this point, which in my mind, I'm like, what, she was just available like that to the community? You know what I'm saying? Like, she wasn't for the street, she was for the universe. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just gonna just marry the best man like that? So, and Samson said one of the most hoodest things, do not blame me for what's about to happen next. I was, in my mind, the look on Samson's face when he said that was like Samuel Jackson on Black Snake Moan. Like, he was mad, right? And so the next thing Samson did was so disrespectful. Now you have to really understand that back then in the agricultural society, vineyards and olive groves and crops where you have wheat and grain, all that stuff made the economy go. From trades to feeding everybody, that's how people got their food. So what he did was so petty. He didn't just go and just burn all the groves and the vineyard and the grain. Nuh-uh. This fool, he took 300 foxes, tied them up in pairs, tied their tails up by pairs, lit a lit torch, attached it to them, and after trapping them, after doing all this, he let them go and all the crops got burned. Samson burned everything. After he did that, the Philistine must have woke up the next morning, must have, in the middle of the night saw fire, and there wasn't no fire people back then. They couldn't do nothing about it. There wasn't no a whole bunch of just water they could just put out fire. They had buckets in this big old scandalous fire. And so they was like, who did this? And the father of the bride, of the woman who he married off, was like, Samson did this. He was mad. I married his best friend off. And so what they did was, rather than be understanding about it, they burnt the father and the woman alive. That's what they did. That's what they did. Samson, he burnt out. He left. He like, yo, because he knew what he did was disrespect. So to quickly paraphrase what happened to him next, because we run out of time, he ends up sleeping with a prostitute after all this happens, which is another violation of who he is as an Israelite who follows God. He ends up falling in love with another Philistine woman, him and his pattern with him and Philistine women. He falls in love with her. The Philistine men say, yo, tell us the secret to his strength because we want to kill him and he keep beating us up because he's so strong and we're going to give you money to do this. So he falls in love with this woman, Delilah. She ends up asking him straight out, what's the secret to his strength? He lies to her first few times. He eventually tells her the secret to his strength. So another secret that he gives up to a woman about himself that he ain't supposed to say. And because he tells her, she cuts his hair off while he sleep. The Philistine men come and get him. He try to be strong again. He can't be strong because his hair is cut. He get beat, captured. Now he's in this building where they mocking him. For years, Samson been torturing him. They mocking him and teasing him. They slapping him because this bull is no longer stronger no more. Samson, his desperate last prayer to God, God, please give me strength one more time so I can kill your enemies. God grants his prayer. Samson in this building put his hands on the pillar. He pushes the pillar and the building gives out and it falls on the Philistine and Samson, killing everybody, and the Philistines are defeated. Even though God's will got done, I know there was another way for Samson to still be used by God without going out like that. The point I'm making is that his undiscipline in his solo single life transferred with his undiscipline with women. His discipline by himself, with himself, or lack of thereof, it converted over to the discipline with women. This is what I mean. Him eating from dead lions' carcasses, him touching dead bodies, him falling in love with women he ain't supposed to fall in love with, him sleeping with prostitutes, it all led to him being undisciplined in crucial moments. When his first wife asked him, what's the secret to your riddle? And because he was undisciplined, he told her the secret. With the second woman he fell in love with, the Philistine woman, she asked him, what's the secret to his strength? These secrets, right? He ended up telling the secrets because he's undisciplined, and now they know the secret to his strength, the secret to the riddle, and in both instances, he was heartbroken and he was humiliated. And so this is what happens to men. When you don't live a disciplined life financially, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, professionally, it will transfer over to other areas of your life and you would end up imploding or exploding. For me, I imploded, depressed, I'm divorced, I'm spending holidays by myself. I don't want to spend holidays with nobody else because I'm used to having my family, but I don't have no more. And I'm thinking about every decision I made before I even met my ex-wife. Every decision I made before I ever became a father that led me to this point. And I could think of key moments where my undiscipline and my singleness affected my undiscipline as a husband and as a father. Do not be the undisciplined simp. Because Samson was, he ended up going out. And one day you're going to be undisciplined in the wrong situation, the worst going to destroy your whole life if you ain't careful. Peace.